What's going on, guys? Alex here with 814 EDC, and today I'm ready to do my full review on the American Blade Works Model 2. So this is in via the Lefty passaround group, and this is the second American Blade Works model or knife that I've ever got the handle. John over at Grateful Panic sent me one of his Model 1s a year ago, give or take. It was when I was still in school, so it's been at least a year, probably a year and a half ago. I think it was the V5 or V6. I really like that knife. I believe the creator behind American Blade Works, I think his name is Michael Martin, but he's a one-man shop. He makes all of his knives 100% made in the USA, small batch. He makes really cool products. They primarily are flipper only knives, so he's keeping the same theme with the Model 2, but the Model 1, fantastic model. I really liked the one that I had in from John over at Grateful Panic. Really enjoyed that one, and I have really enjoyed the Model 2. I think this is a really good value it's kind of, well, I think it's a good value, but I also think it's right, in line with a lot of other USA made knives kind of in that same category. One that comes to mind specifically is TRM, or Three Rivers Manufacturing. They are all USA made of course, here in the United States. And the value and the price you pay for them is very comparable to the value and the price that you pay for one of the Model 1s or Model 2s here from American Blade Works. So without further ado, we're going to jump into materials and whatnot. I will say I will leave a link to the Model 2 down below in the description, and from there you can explore the rest of American Blade Works page. Unfortunately, the Model 2 is sold out right now. I do not know when they're planning on being restocked. I would imagine pretty soon, in the next couple weeks, maybe month and a half, something like that, if I had to guess, because they've been sold out, I think, since his original drop, which has been about a month. So jumping right into materials, you guys can see that the Model 2 is rocking some beautiful milled titanium scales. They have milling lines in them right there. These are awesome aesthetically and awesome from an ergo department as well. It adds a nice amount of grip on there without being like overly textured and overly like ripping your pants up. But I think it just looks really good from an aesthetic standpoint too, just having all those lines run straight through the knife. You have a titanium backspacer right there. You have a milled titanium pot clip that is righty only carry. So lefties, if you get one of these knives, you would have to carry this, with a righty clip. But that's what, it is what it is. The American Blade Works pivot right there. That's his logo, if it'll focus. Right there. And then on the back here, it says made in the USA, which is really cool. I like that a lot. Of course, you have a flipper only, like I said. Magnacut, which is really cool. I'll flip the knife open. Magnacut right there, which he, for the most part, from up until recently, he has been using 20 CV, and I still think he might be doing 20 CV on some of the Model 1s. But I've seen a lot of Magnacut on both Model 1s and the Model 2 as well. So that's cool to see him transitioning over to, a different blade steel, kind of the new, the hot blade steel, one of the newer ones in the market. Then, of course, you have this beautiful Wharncliffe style blade. It's a Wharncliffe, but I see a little bit of sheep's foot in as well. It comes down to a nice thin edge, and you guys can see the light will pick up on it. He leaves, some of the grind lines in there, which looks really cool. And he's done that before on his Model 1s as well. But just a nice sterile blade, except for the Magnacut here on this side. But beautiful blade, comes down to a nice thin edge. Overall, you have, kind of right in the middle for stock thickness. It's not too thick, but not too thin at the same time. It's nice and a good amount, in my opinion. You have some jimping up top there. You do have a forward finger choil right there as well. This is on, I believe, ceramic bearings. I do have my computer sitting right here, so I will check. He has a ceramic detent ball and the rides on ceramic cage bearings and has a ceramic detent ball, which is nice. Of course, the blade is in a, as he calls it on the website, a light stone wash, but on the camera it's looking a little reflective. And it does have a little bit for a stone wash. It is pretty reflective, which is kind of cool to see, but I love a good stone wash. Um, the blade is 3.25 inches long, so right in that sweet spot for me. And the knife is 4.55 inches long when closed. And of course, states on the website, this knife and materials used are all 100% American made, which is awesome. I love that. You know, as much as I buy knives from China and, you know, support Chinese companies, because let's face it, they do make really, really good knives. And I'll probably never ever stop that because, you know, American made knives are expensive, and, you know, it's nicer to collect, or it's nice to collect, you know, cheaper models and cheaper knives that are still made really well and still made with really good materials. But nonetheless, whenever you have an all USA made knife in your hand, it feels really good, and I don't know, there's just something about it when carrying it, and you're like, I don't know, you just feel patriotic, I guess. But one thing I did forget, of course, you do have a liner lock right there with some jimping. And then for internal milling, there is no internal milling. I will see if there are any stats on here, but I don't think there is. For weight, there is not. So, but that's all for materials. And as of right now, for the Model 2, this is the only model out there. I could see him definitely producing some, you know, maybe G10. You know, on the Model 1, he does G10, titanium, and micarta on the scales, and he also does a liner lock, and I think he has some frame locks. So I could see him definitely taking that route with the Model 2, you know, given its popularity and a lot of people liking the overall design, aesthetic of it, and everything like that. So that's all for materials. So we're going to jump into action next. Now the action on this is pretty good. I do have one complaint with the closing action, and that's probably my only complaint with the knife at all. But it does have a nice, you know, it's not very acoustically loud, but you guys can definitely hear it snapping back into place. For flipper only, you can do the light switch, flies right out of there. You can do the push button, flies right out of there. I typically do the push button on most of the knives that I have either come in or in the collection with flippers only, which, if I'm being honest, I don't buy a ton of flipper only knives. But I can definitely appreciate a good flipper only knife. But I tend to do the push button just because it's a little bit snappier. You know, with the light switch, you kind of just drag your finger along and it snaps out. And it still is pretty snappy that way. But I just love the light switch because it just, bang, fires right out of there repeatedly. You get that nice snap. Very nice acoustics with this knife. Of course, it being all titanium and all CNC milled, you're going to get some nice sounds and some nice acoustics. Of course, you can get it Lefty as well. Comes out of there. Light switch, push button, light switch, push button. Now for the closing, which again, I do have one complaint with. Liner lock access is really nice, easy to get to. But the one thing I will say about this knife is it has a very light detent, and that can be kind of cumbersome and kind of annoying when you're trying to fidget with the knife. Now, if you are a person who, you know, says screw fidgeting, like you just want a hard-working knife and you just want to, you know, you're going to do this every time, you're going to push it all the way, push the liner all the way out of the way, and you're going to close it, and you're not going to do any sort of drop shutting with it. That's okay. You know, that's you do you, and I can definitely appreciate that, and I can definitely see someone wanting to do that. But for me, I tend to fidget with my knives a lot. You know, I think that's a huge reason why I like knife collecting, is not only seeing them as tools, but using them as, you know, seeing the way different knives drop and feel and fidget with. And that's just a huge part of collecting for me, kind of that OCD-ness of feeling how each knife feels different. But with this knife, when you go to deploy it, disengage it, you're still not past the detent ball right there. You guys can see I'm pushing the lock bar, and then it's still, I'm not doing that at all. That's just for me pushing the lock bar and releasing the lock bar, and it's popping back and forth. It's very late, and I noticed a lot of other people have talked about this as well. And again, some people might not care about this at all, but it has been a little bit annoying to me because I want to like this knife so much. I genuinely love this knife, but this issue, not necessarily an issue, but this ordeal is causing me from really loving this knife, like loving this knife. Because, you know, as I'll talk about, it feels great in the hand, materials, USA made, all that. It's fantastic. I really do like this knife. I love the way it looks, but I can't get over, it's hard to fidget with because you have to get basically, so this is, right now is kind of, you're hitting that wall and then it gets past the D10 ball. But to fidget with it, you have to pull your thumb the whole way down here for it to basically almost swing past, and then you're good. But if you do it up here, you gotta drop it. It just oftentimes than not snaps back into place like that. When you go from there to kind of shake it shut, it drops back into its locked position. And over here you can sort of see the same thing. You guys know I like to do the close my index finger, but to get it, that's how far you have to get it past, and then it'll drop closed. Once you get it past there, it's very smooth. The ceramic bearings work awesomely. It's not a guillotine shut, so it's not like I can move the knife and it's going to drop closed. But all it takes is a few basically micro shakes, and it just glides home. Or it just takes one. I did two there, but it takes one big shake and it's closed. So it's kind of it's kind of a nitpick. I don't know if other people feel that. Actually, I do know other people feel the same way. I think Kevin, Lefty DC, who this knife came from, even talks about that. But there's no blade play at all. This thing's locked up real nice and tight, and it's very, very smooth. You get very snappy D10 action on the flipper. So all in all, it's very nice. And honestly, once you get used to where to put your thumb when you're deploying it, or excuse me, disengaging it, it makes it much more easier to fidget with, because you have to pull your thumb instead of up here closer to the flipper tab. You have to drop it down here pretty low on the lock bar, and right there. See, if you get it low enough, it'll even drop to your nail, because it is that smooth. It's just that D10 ball track is just super long, or excuse me, super late, and that's something I don't like, very much. I can kind of get around it, and I have gotten used to it in like the 2 or 3 weeks that I've had this knife. But that might stop me from buying this, as much as I hate to say it. But I have some other ideas, which I'll talk about later on in sort of the last thing I talk about with price point and what I recommend this knife. But for the most part, 80% when it comes to action, 80% of it I love, 20% of it I don't love, and that's just that late D10 ball. But like I said, once you get used to it and you get lower on the lock bar, it'll close pretty nice and pretty smooth. So all in all, pretty good. Just a few, one small nitpick you guys might think of as stupid, and it might just brush it right off, and might not affect your overall thought in this knife. But I wanted to give it to you guys. I wanted to be fully transparent with it and fully give you guys my thoughts. So next up, we're going to talk about ergos. And the ergos on this knife are fantastic. Of course, it's pretty much a straight line back here. It does kind of swell a little bit and then taper off towards the end, but it's pretty much straight. And down here is the same. You do have a finger groove right here, but then after that it tapers, or excuse me, it's pretty much straight here as well, but it tapers off towards the back, and then you have a slanted lower sort of straight landing area. And of course you have that choil up there as well. Jimping up top there, and of course you have jimping on the flipper tab and the liner lock, which gives you grip on the bottom as well. In a normal grip, I have plenty of room to get all 4 fingers on there with a little bit sticking out of the back. Very, very comfortable. The milled titanium adds a fantastic sort of texture and grip. Again, like I said earlier, not something that's going to rip your pockets open or rip your pockets up, and cause your hands to catch on it. It's very subtle, and it's just straight lines. Nothing crazy, but I think it looks awesome, and for a grip perspective, feels great in the hand. Pot clip is a milled clip, so they sit pretty flush to the scales. So can I feel it? Yes, but unless I am just like gripping this for dear life and I am just squeezing it as hard as I can't feel it that much. It's not causing that much of a hot spot. But when you choke up, you get even more room back there. Your thumb lands out here. Mine gets almost out here to the point of the blade for great control. I move up even farther off of that pot clip, so it makes it even less of a hot spot than it already, it was already a little bit, how do I say this? It was already not much of a hot spot at all, but moving up, choking up makes it even less of a hot spot. It's very, very comfortable. You can do some great push cuts with this. Goes through cardboard very well. Very thin behind the edge. Overall, pretty thin blade stock as well. So as a cutting tool, this thing works very well. Magnacut. sort of like I said, the hot steel nowadays. And I would trust him to heat treat it pretty well. It does not say on the website what it is heat treated to, but I would assume it's done to spec, which I can appreciate, and I would hope is what is done. But very comfortable. Pinch grip works pretty well. My middle finger and thumb, pointer finger lands up here on the tip, so I can get around labels or into an Amazon package, into a cardboard box, whatever it may be. You guys know I love a good pinch grip, and this works very well with that. Reverse grip, if you have to, get into some 7-Eleven gas station knife fights with Kevin over a Slurpee, works well. It is a little bit of a pointiness. You can't really land too much on that flat spot, but if you had to in a pinch, you could do some slicing and dicing and stabbing with this knife. Yeah, really any way that you're going to grip it is pretty comfortable, due to the scales being, milled nicely, has no sharp edges at all. It's all contoured in the right areas and chamfered in the right areas. So overall, this is a very comfortable knife to use, to fidget with, and to carry. So I guess that takes me into the carry section of this review. And with this being a milled clip, you do have a lot sticking about this much. I don't love that. I would have maybe rather them try to put some sort of deep carry clip on there, but I don't think American Blade Works has one. I don't believe Michael has done one. These are the standard clips that he uses on his Model 1s as well. And just due to how this knife is shaped and how the back end of the knife comes to a point, that's just how, a lot of knives like that with handles like this, with milled clips, you tend to have a little bit more sticking up out of your pocket, just because that's just how it is. It didn't really bother me. I don't love having knives stick this far up out of my pocket, but I got used to it. I didn't carry this in jeans because it's been pretty warm. Obviously it's summer here, in the United States, and it's been pretty warm here in northwestern Pennsylvania. So I've carried this in shorts, khakis a couple times. I've thrown this in gym shorts a couple times when I'm around the house, and it carries well. It does have a little bit of weight to it, but again, the weight is not listed on the website, so I don't know exactly what it weighs. But if I were to guess, it'd probably be between 4 and 5 ounces. When it's in your hand, you cannot really tell, but honestly, when it's in your pocket, you can't tell either that bad. But it definitely is not the lightest knife in the world, so I just want you guys to be aware of that. But it sits down in. You do have a flipper tab down here with jimping, but the jimping is not super aggressive at all. So when you reach down in to maybe grab for change, chapstick, medicine, something like that, to where you're going down past the knife, you do have a little bit of jimping to maybe catch on and possibly pull the knife out of your pocket. But I would say the odds of that happening are like 0.1%, because again, odds are you're just going to go down in, grab whatever you have to do, and when you come back up, your finger is just going to bounce off of it, because that jimping is not aggressive at all. So it really would have to take something special for it to grab onto your skin and pull up out of the pocket. But despite it being a little bit weighty, carries pretty well. It's a nice overall size. Again, it says on here it's 4.55 inches long, so definitely not the biggest knife in the world. I'm kind of right in that sweet spot of mid-sized knives. So that leads me to my final category of price point and would I recommend this knife. So the Model 2 in titanium comes in at $329 straight from American Blade Works. Unfortunately, this is sold out on the website, but I am going to leave a link in the description down below. Definitely go check out the website, and from the website, I'm sure you can get to his Instagram page, where he'll probably post some updates on when the Model 2 will be coming back in titanium, and like I said, maybe some other models. I'm not sure what he has planned for that, but I can absolutely recommend this knife, guys. It's very well built. Again, this is the second model that I've had from American Blade Works. Both of them have been fantastic in pretty much every factor. Fit and finish is awesome. Materials used are awesome. Build quality kind of goes in with fit and finish is awesome. And like I said earlier, I kind of can push American Blade Works and TRM in together, because they are both small batch American companies that are making their knives here in the United States, using all USA made products for, in my opinion, a very value-based price. $329, yeah, that's a decent chunk of money. But when you're talking about titanium scales, a milled titanium clip, a Magnacut blade, ceramic bearings, ceramic detent ball, all in that package put together, made by one dude in a small batch shop, here in the US, like that's a value in my opinion. And then even goes over to the Model 1s as well. I believe he sells the Model 1s for right around $200. So that's a value as well. And the way I can kind of, loop them in with TRM is because TRM sells the Neutron 2s and the Atoms in micarta and G10 for right around the same price, $200-ish, and then their titanium scaled models around $350. So they're right in the same ballpark, and I do think that they are both fantastic. I have a Neutron 2. You guys know I love that knife. And I am planning on getting a American Blade Works model, but it is not the Model 2. He started making the Model 1 in Wharncliffe, and I like the overall design of that knife a little bit more. It's a little bit slimmer, a little bit sleeker, and he's doing that in Magnacut, so I am waiting for him to drop some more on the site. I reached out to him probably a week and a half ago, maybe a week ago, and I just asked when he was getting more up on the site. He probably said, 2-3 weeks, so I'm eagerly waiting for that because I want one of his knives in my collection. I've always kind of had my eye on it, and then I got John's in, and I liked it, but then I just, there's always stuff that I want, but and I'm sure you guys can attest to that as well. There's always stuff that you have your eye on that you've wanted for a while, but then you just tend to maybe put your money towards something new and hot on the market or another knife, and you just kind of forget about it. But then you always go, man, I really want one of those knives. And that's kind of where I'm at with the Model 1. As much as I liked it with the drop point blade, the Wharncliffe style blade that they are having, or that Michael was making on it, looks fantastic. He's doing some Ultim scaled ones, so maybe if he drops more of those, I might choose that. But I don't know if he's doing maybe some in micarta, and definitely some in some G10. So that'll be coming on the channel, hopefully, if I can get one in the next couple weeks for you guys to check out. But this is fantastic. I love the Model 2. And maybe down the road, if he can maybe work on the, I don't know if that's something he is maybe taking some feedback from and he's going to work on it. But even if he doesn't, change it and doesn't do anything with it, I still think this is a great knife. Fantastic value. If you want a pure USA made knife, good materials, great fit and finish, pretty dang good action. I don't think you can go wrong at all with the Model 2. It's really beautiful. As much as I like the Model 1 more than this is pretty dang close just because how good it looks. But yeah, so this was my full review on the American Blade Works Model 2 in titanium. Huge shout out to Kevin over at Lefty DC for tossing this in the passaround group. When I saw these were being released on the website, I was super stoked, and I almost bought one, but I held off. But now, when Kevin got one and said he was putting it in on the passaround, I was super excited for it, and I was one of the first ones to sign up for it. So really enjoyed it. But thank you, Kev, if you're watching this. You are the GOAT, and can't wait to get more American Blade Works on the channel. So it'll be linked in the description down below if you guys are interested. But again, I'm going to wrap this up, so I'm going to quit rambling and raving and ranting and doing my thing. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your morning, evening, night, whenever you're watching this, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.